In this week's Bizline, ADB forecasts Vietnam's economy to grow strongly and steadily. And later on, overseas Vietnamese return to do business in Vietnam. Hello there, you're tuning into Bizline, our weekly economic journal on VTV International. I'm Hoàng Hằng, and as usual, we now start with news making headlines in Vietnam's economic scene this week.
The Asian Development Bank, or ADB, forecasts Vietnam economy to grow strongly and steadily at a rate of 6.7% this year and 7% in 2022. The increased growth in Vietnam's gross domestic product, or GDP, is attributed to export-oriented manufacturing, investment, and trade expansion, despite COVID-19 outbreaks in several neighboring countries. ADB believes that the economic recovery of major trading partners will increase export demand in Vietnam's manufacturing sector.
Leaders of European businesses have started 2021 with optimism about the trade and investment environment in Vietnam. According to the Business Climate Index, or BCI, for the first quarter of 2021, released by the European Chamber of Commerce, or EuroCham, the index reached 73.9 points in the first quarter, the highest score recorded since the third quarter of 2019, before the COVID-19 pandemic impacted global trade and investment. In terms of business climate outlook for the second quarter this year, 67% of European enterprises considered it excellent or good, rising 12% from the first quarter. According to EuroCham, this BCI indicates that Vietnam has continued to open its economy. Vietnam is capable of ensuring businesses' normal operations without many disruptions, which is helping fuel economic growth and European business leaders' confidence.
As of April 20th, Vietnam attracted $12.25 billion in foreign direct investment, or FDI, equivalent to 99.3% compared to the same period last year, according to the Ministry of Planning and Investment's Foreign Investment Agency. The agency also said that it noted the average size of newly licensed projects and those registering to adjust their capital increased by less than $7 million per project in comparison with the same period last year. The 4-month period saw FDI projects disburse $5.5 billion, up 6.8% over the same period last year, thanks to the recovery of production and business operations.
According to the General Statistics Office, in the first 4 months of the year, the total import-export turnover was estimated at more than $206.5 billion, an increase of nearly 30% over the same period last year. This is the highest growth rate in the past 10 years. Specifically, 6 exported items achieved a turnover of over $5 billion, accounting for nearly 60% of the total, namely phones and components, electronics, computers, machinery, equipment, tools and spare parts, textiles, shoes and wood.
IHS Markit, a global business information provider, has just released a report that shows that Vietnam's April Purchasing Managers Index, or PMI, reached 54.7 points, up 1.1 percentage point from the previous month. This is the third consecutive month that the index has increased. The faster increase in production and new orders has caused manufacturers to promote the purchase of production materials and utilize more labor. The number of new orders and production output saw the fastest growth rate in nearly 2.5 years, with consumer goods companies recording the strongest growth in output. The report also shows that supply chain disruption has improved. However, supply scarcity and increased transportation costs have resulted in higher input prices.
Those are some highlights in Vietnam's economic scene. Up next in our crosstalk, we find out why Vietnam is such an attractive place for overseas Vietnamese in recent decades.
As of October 2020, overseas Vietnamese in 27 countries and territories have invested in 362 projects in the form of foreign direct investment in Vietnam, with a total registered capital of $1.6 billion, in which Vietnamese Americans invested in 18 projects with investment capital of $105.8 million US dollars. About 70% of remittances to Vietnam flow into the business sector, of which a large proportion comes from the startup projects of young overseas Vietnamese. In just the last 3 years, Ho Chi Minh City witnessed the emergence of hundreds of startup models initiated and invested by young overseas Vietnamese.
We're so proud of Vietnam and Vietnamese people, and they have the desire and the drive to come back here and contribute to country's development.
Nếu ta không yêu nước thì ta chỉ về để kiếm tiền rồi bỏ đi. Nhưng mà ta yêu nước thật sự thì chúng ta ở lại đây phải đóng góp bằng cách là tất cả mọi việc là phải làm theo pháp luật.
Overseas Vietnamese are playing an important role in the country's development. Many of them are experts in key economic sectors such as information technology, manufacturing, biotechnology, medicine, banking, and finance. These are also the spearhead fields that are expected to drive economic development in Vietnam. More and more overseas Vietnamese have turned to their homeland, finding Vietnam to be an attractive destination for their investment, thanks to its effective containment of COVID-19. And in today's Bizline program, we will sit down with two of our guests who are also overseas Vietnamese to find out why Vietnam is such an attractive place for them. Please welcome Dr. Duyên Bùi, Chief Scientist and co-founder of Genetica, a genetics decoding platform, and also Mr. Chí Nguyễn, Country Director of Kuala Insurtech, top regional Insurtech. Well, welcome to you both. You are both overseas Vietnamese with a cross-border and transnational business experience. But at this special time of COVID-19, you are here in Vietnam. Why so?
Vietnam has a lot of potential, and it's one of the fastest growing market. That is why Vietnam is a very attractive destination for business. And also for Vietnam, we really see that there are a lot of talents.
I've been in Vietnam for about 5 years now, almost 6 years. But Kuala Insurtech has only entered Vietnam since last June. So essentially, we entered Vietnam post-COVID, right? And I think that speaks really well on the potential of Vietnam. That even without proper due diligence, regional companies still want to enter Vietnam and really explore the market. COVID or no COVID, Vietnam has always been quite attractive in the last, I guess, 5 to 10 years.
Vietnam has a lot of support, especially from the government. And I think NIC, the National Innovation Center, has done an amazing job of connecting business. So Vietnam, local businesses in Vietnam, and business outside of Vietnam, so from Silicon Valley, from Europe, and it's been a nice journey with a lot of networking. I realized that there are many new venture capital that show very high interest in the Vietnam market. So we have developed also quite fast compared to what I had imagined before going back to Vietnam. So for the first year that we've launched, we have 10,000 users. That was, in my thought, originally quite ambitious.
I went back with the thought of see how it went, right? I didn't have a plan. I went back because I thought, at that point in time, I needed a bit of a change, and Vietnam seemed a little bit of a safe bet. But I really also enjoyed my time in Vietnam. I found that I was very surprised also that there were so many opportunities, that Vietnam was extremely open to entrepreneur. and also professional. There was a lot of needs for professionals coming back from overseas. My initial thought was, see how it went. Maybe if it didn't work out, I can always go back to Australia, right? But it's been 6 years and I enjoy it tremendously.
Tất cả gia đình của Kevin là bố mẹ, anh, chị em đều là ở California hết. Có mình Kevin sau 14 năm sống ở Mỹ cùng gia đình thì đã về Việt Nam. Ở Mỹ thì mặc dù thị trường về công nghệ, cái hệ sinh thái của các nhà đầu tư, hệ sinh thái của khách hàng hiểu về những cái ứng dụng như là tân tiến như AI và blockchain là đã rất là xa rồi, rất là dễ dàng. Nhưng cái chuyện mà mình mang lại những giá trị cho cộng đồng ở Mỹ so với lại những cái việc mình làm ở đây cùng với những bà con của mình ở Việt Nam, nó mang lại những cái niềm vui.
Kevin Tung Nguyen, under 30 Forbes Asia 2019, founded a tech startup in Vietnam since 2016. This cute bunny is the logo of his job recruiting app called Job Hop In. Having realized that reports on salary and human resources situation in Vietnam always lagged behind reality, Kevin Nguyen came up with the idea of solving these big data issues in Vietnam using artificial intelligence technology to help match jobs with job seekers.
Mình giảm tất cả những công việc mà sàng lọc, rồi phân tích, kết nối thủ công đó để cho máy làm những chuyện đó tốt hơn cả người. Và mình tập trung vào cái chuyện đó là interview, tìm những cái cộng sự mà hợp với mình nhất, tốt hơn.
If COVID-19 causes businesses to cut staff, Kevin's startup triples the number of staff with new contracts with prestigious partners such as FPT or Ninja Van. The experience in Vietnam so far has affirmed Kevin's belief in his choice to return and work in Vietnam.
Thời gian này cũng có rất nhiều bạn bè của Kevin đã tốt nghiệp những chương trình học mà cao học MBA hay là tiến sĩ ở những trường rất là danh tiếng hàng đầu thế giới. Các bạn đều nghĩ trở về Việt Nam đó chính là không phải là một cái sự rủi ro thay đổi nữa, mà ở lại những đất nước, những cơ hội, chọn những cái cơ hội nó quá dễ dàng với các bạn ở những thị trường nó phát triển quá chậm vì nó đã quá bão hòa rồi. Đó chính là những rủi ro còn lớn hơn so với là những rủi ro trở về thị trường mà mọi người đã thấy được là trên thế giới không có nước nào hiện tại bây giờ trên thế giới mình mà an toàn hơn Việt Nam hết. Và mặc dù là cửa khẩu vẫn còn đóng, vẫn chưa có nhiều các chuyến gọi là commercial flight về Việt Nam, nhưng mà cái chuyện kinh doanh của mình online vẫn rất là phát triển rất là tốt. Chính sách của chính phủ đặc biệt dành cho những cái doanh nghiệp về công nghệ, về thuế, về những cái môi trường gọi là sandbox để mà thử nghiệm những chương trình về những công nghệ như AI, về blockchain cực kỳ tốt, thì không có ở đâu có hơn bằng Việt Nam mình hết.
After 3 years, the startup now has nearly 100 employees operating in 3 markets, namely Vietnam, Japan, and Singapore.
What can you tell us about the business environment here in Vietnam?
Vietnam as a market, has been proving lots of opportunities for career growth and development, and also in my personal experience, it's also like a really good opportunity to reconnect to our families here in Vietnam.
That's great. And for you, Mr. Chi, what can you tell us about the business environment here in Vietnam from your experience working in banking and finance?
The business experience that I have has been extremely open. I guess, from the macro level, it's very easy to establish a business here. The procedure is long, but it's not. It's easy. It's not that you have to go through a lot of stages. The market acceptance level is also great, both because our business, we work with very large platforms like Shopee. We found that the level of acceptance at our partners' level and at their end users' level are very high. Extremely good business opportunities. I'll give you an example. The reason why we enter Vietnam, right? The level of people with life insurance in Vietnam is extremely low. The penetration is less than 10%. So we come in with a mission to say that we will be able to bring the level up by making it more accessible, more affordable to as many people as possible, right? And at the same time, the penetration rate is also growing double digit. So from the business standpoint, it's extremely easy to talk to partners and extremely easy to make a decision about going to Vietnam. The ecosystem really accept and really are open to foreign investors entering Vietnam.
What are the opportunities for you to work in Vietnam for overseas Vietnamese in general?
I came into Vietnam just thinking, in a sense, can you get a six-figure job? Mm-hmm. Is it available,
possible,
right? Yeah. But I'm quite surprised. There are a lot of technical opportunities, and there's a lot of general opportunities that can, as you say, really provide the same level of expenditure income to the people returning to Vietnam, right? That is something that people, especially Vietnamese born overseas, they don't expect.
So I understand that Kuala was able to call for $16 million in funding, and Genetica was able to call 2.5 million. So what does these figures mean to you guys?
One of the key selling point was expansion. Kuala is extremely mature in Indonesia, but we've only been in Vietnam for about a year. So the fund that we've raised predominantly also to make sure that we expand properly to Vietnam. Can you imagine if you go on a bus, you purchase a bus ticket and you know that you are already protected when you purchase it, in case you have an accident, right? Many insurtech businesses, they successfully raised funding post-COVID, and many of them entered Vietnam around the same time, or even right after COVID, just to prove that Vietnam is an extremely desirable market for regional and international players, and those players are armed with a lot of funding.
For the 2.5 million, that was for this round only. We have called for funding for like a month or so, and we got that 2.5 million, mostly from investors in Silicon Valley, because we own our own core technology, the proprietary technology, which is the combination of artificial intelligence and genetic testing, which make the tests much more accurate and have a lot of future applications. And that is for this round. It's 5 million, including the previous rounds as well. And so if not for COVID, I believe that Genetica would also go regional at this point. The government really is very supportive on the decision of establishing a very high standard for lab, like a clear lab for clinical samples.
Born and raised as an American, but upon returning to Vietnam for the first time, Daniel Nguyen Hoat Tien felt a strong attachment to his home country and its people. With curiosity about Vietnamese culture and experiences in community development, he has repeatedly come to eat, live, and work with people in remote areas. Throughout his journeys, he has come to adopt a vast knowledge of folk culture. His love for the country and for his people motivated him to learn more from the cultural treasure and to be more close to the locals.
Tôi quý Tiến ở chỗ là tại sao một cái con người mà nó sống ở bên kia mà đến đây mà nó có thể sờ phân, đấy, có thể cuốc đất, đấy, làm cỏ, và giống như cái người nông dân của mình quý cái bạn Tiến là ở chỗ đấy.
Tôi rất là quý cái anh này, tại vì là tôi biết là cái anh này là rất là muốn nghiên cứu về truyền thống của nói chung của Việt Nam mình và nói riêng của dân tộc Dao Đỏ mình ở đây. Thì nó nghiên cứu rất là kỹ và nó nói, nó hỏi thì hỏi rất là thật sự là rất là sâu.
With a love of his homeland and the burning will to polish the raw stones in the local culture, turning them into precious things, he has traveled around the country to gather native plants to develop a traditional product line which is attached to the cultural identity of the ethnic peoples. The beverage business he founded has created jobs and outputs for many farmers, brought indigenous products beyond Vietnam's borders to many major markets. Through his business, he wants to tell the many stories about Vietnamese culture.
Cái mong muốn của tôi là mang lại một cái trải nghiệm cho khách, trải nghiệm thật sự Việt Nam thì không dừng ở hương vị hay là nguyên liệu, nhưng mà kể câu chuyện về nghệ thuật, từ bao bì đến triết lý, từ âm dương và cách mà kết hợp và mà phối hợp các hương vị mát và nóng, đến kể câu chuyện về các cái địa phương, từng địa phương một, lối sống và sinh kế và văn hóa của bà con bản địa. Tôi mong muốn được tăng giá trị sản phẩm của bà con qua các không chỉ là chế biến, qua các kể câu chuyện và xây dựng thương hiệu. Từ sông Cái thì mang yếu tố rất là Việt Nam.
To Daniel Hoa Tien, cultural preservation and promotion not only makes Vietnamese people proud, but also introduces the image of the country to international friends. That's how he expresses his love for Vietnam.
Nếu mà tất cả mọi người cùng nhau bước lên với nhau ấy, thì không ai có thể nói là chen nhau hay là bon chen. Đấy, thì khi mà mình muốn giàu lên thì mình muốn cả xã hội cũng giàu lên cùng mình. Đấy là cái ước mơ cơ bản nhất của mình. Tất cả cái nỗ lực, tất cả mọi thứ mà tôi tìm hiểu, học hỏi và thực hiện, nó dồn hết vào Việt Nam mà nó có một cái ý nghĩa. Vì thế là tôi thấy là cái ý nghĩa công việc và cuộc sống của tôi nó dồi dào và nó phong phú hơn, và nó bám sâu hơn vào thịt, vào máu của mình.
What are the obstacles or challenges that you faced?
The administration process in opening a business, even though it's very simple in the beginning, is quite long in a sense, and then for you to operate it, it also requires a little bit of help from outsourced companies like accounting companies in order to make sure that you're fully compliant. Especially when you've just entered Vietnam, you're not large enough to have different fully functioned departments. It becomes a bit of a challenge, and another challenge I have is to find really suitable talent. I guess the Vietnam market, in terms of the talent pool, people feel that there are a lot of talent in the market, and it's true, right? But still, to find the proper, appropriate, most suitable talent, especially I guess the core member of the company.
Do you have any recommendations in terms of solutions for us to overcome these obstacles, these challenges?
We can digitalize a lot of the process and make it extremely streamlined. There are a lot of things that I think you don't need paperwork anymore, especially in the business setup or in the banking setup where you need to let's say transfer fund into Vietnam for specific investment or capital purposes, things like that.
As you know, the Vietnamese government is putting great efforts in making Vietnam an attractive destination for FDI globally. Do you think the same focus has been applied to make the business environment more attractive to overseas Vietnamese?
I myself can't feel the differentiation at all, honestly, because the effort was actually for both, right? So, so for all of the entities that are interested, and it doesn't discriminate between the two.
Overseas Vietnamese are more attracted to Vietnam because of the fact that a lot of MNC is in Vietnam, because of the fact that there are a lot of startups in Vietnam, a lot of venture capitals in Vietnam, a lot of entrepreneurial business opportunities in Vietnam. And they are attracted because the Vietnamese government has been so open with FDI, with foreign invested companies, and because of that, it creates that environment where that's very desirable environment for not only overseas Vietnamese, but also foreigners to come into Vietnam.
Also, a trend is spotted among the second generation of overseas Vietnamese, where they return, thrive in Vietnam, and then after a few years they leave. So what is your comment on that?
I haven't left. And I don't plan to. And for the second generation, I really had an opposite experience on that, even with my friends who came back. I really think that it's a very good opportunity to connect or reconnect to family members in Vietnam. But so far, I believe that in my tiny bubbles of network where with other returnees like me, people have overall very positive experience.
My experience with my network is that they come into Vietnam and they don't want to leave because it's, the professional side is satisfactory, the social side is satisfactory, the networking side is I guess a lot more satisfactory.
What is your advice for people looking to go back to Vietnam?
I really want to show the people who have not come back yet that Vietnam really is a growing market, surprisingly so, and it will continue to be. That is why they would also be surprised as well, I believe, if they come back to Vietnam and see those opportunities. So give it a try.
I think my advice is, if you really want to go back to Vietnam, you have to immerse yourself, both professionally and I guess culturally. You see that people would stay in Vietnam, would really enjoy in Vietnam and have a success in Vietnam when they are, stepping outside of the expat bubble, in a sense. They immerse in the culture. They network with local people rather than just within the expat network.
Once again, thank you for being here with us. Now, a common answer we found when we asked overseas Vietnamese about why they came back to do business in Vietnam, most of the young overseas Vietnamese said that with the knowledge and practical experience gained from developed markets, they find their contribution more impactful here in Vietnam. It's a win-win process for both sides, and with global integration and further commitment of the government in this integration process, the trend of overseas Vietnamese returning has been more sustainable. And on that note, we wrap up this edition of Bizline. You can always tune in to vtv4.vtv.vn or simply download our app VTV Go from App Store and Google Play for a lot more. Thank you for watching and see you next time.